Epilepsy warning for flashing lights and colors.
Hey everybody, Jim Cummings here, and you're watching Theme Park Crazy.
The 1990s, a decade of Rugrats, rollerblades, and roller coasters. The concept of the roller coaster dates way before the decade, but the 90s still gave us some of the greatest iconic coasters of all time. Recently I conducted a poll with my viewers to rank the decade's coasters by how awesome and iconic they are. So as voted on by the fans, here are the top 20 90s coasters you can still ride today. Number 20. Afterburn at North Carolina's Carowinds, made by Swiss manufacturer Bolliger & Mabillard, or B&M for short. Back in 1992, Paramount Parks acquired several amusement parks across North America. Throughout the rest of the decade, the company would implement several Paramount intellectual properties throughout these parks. Examples at Carowinds include a flying coaster based on Star Trek, an inverted water coaster based on the Nicktoons, and an inverted thrill coaster themed to Top Gun. First opening in 1999, this ride named Top Gun the Jet Coaster would debut to great fanfare. At a special event on March 16th, NASCAR drivers, military personnel, and students from local schools were among the first to ride the coaster. They would experience a layout filled with high-speed transitions and whippy inversions. Throughout the layout, riders would traverse a vertical loop as well as an Immelman, a zero-G roll, a batwing, and a corkscrew at a top speed of 62 miles per hour. This speed feels constant throughout, and even today, this ride is widely praised for its intensity and overall smoothness. Even after the more modern attractions of the 2010s, this coaster still holds its own as among the park's best. Number 19. Great Bear at Pennsylvania's Hershey Park, made by B&M. While Hershey Park is now widely known for its unique high-intensity coasters, its lineup was a different story in the late 90s. At the time, the only coasters to go upside down were the vintage Super Duper Looper and their Boomerang coaster Sidewinder. While they're still solid attractions, Hershey Park was looking for something much bigger and better. And what better company to go big with than B&M? The installation itself would end up being one of the manufacturer's most difficult projects. The location inside the park and the available terrain meant they had to carefully design the layout. Moreover, they couldn't build supports inside the park's Spring Creek, so B&M had to design new, unusual-looking supports that ran alongside it. Despite these setbacks though, the final result was outstanding. The way it utilized the terrain made the ride experience much more immersive and unique. Its inversions, scope, and scale make it among the park's top attractions. Plus, its ultra-smooth track makes it a major crowd pleaser. It truly is a one-of-a-kind invert, and you really can't miss it when you visit Hershey Park. Number 18. The Big One at England's Blackpool Pleasure Beach, made by American manufacturer Aerodynamics. 5 years after breaking the world's tallest full-circuit coaster record with Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point, Aerodynamics would head across the Atlantic to install another record breaker. This time, it would be at the historic seaside amusement park Blackpool Pleasure Beach. When it first opened, this coaster was sponsored by the Pepsi Company, and it was actually named the Pepsi Max Big One, specifically named after the Pepsi Max soft drink. And what a big one it is! Standing at 213 feet tall, this coaster took the record as the tallest full-circuit coaster on Earth. The ride itself is an out-and-back experience packed with airtime moments and incredible vistas. The top of the lift gives an outstanding view of the Irish Sea, and I'm not sure if this is true, but on a super clear day, you may be able to see the Isle of Man from up there. Interestingly enough, the park often advertises the ride as being 230 feet, but this is the height above sea level and not the structural height. Even still, this ride remains the tallest British coaster of all time, as well as one of the country's most iconic rides. Number 17. Star Wars Hyperspace Mountain Rebel Mission, or Hyperspace Mountain for short, at France's Disneyland Paris, made by Dutch manufacturer Vekoma. When it first debuted to the public, Disneyland Paris, then known as Euro Disneyland, was a massive failure both attendance-wise and financially. In fact, its failure would at least partially result in a number of other Disney attractions being cancelled. But instead of giving up on the park, company officials wanted to breathe new life into it with a star attraction. Imagineers would come up with a new rendition of Space Mountain based on the works of Jules Verne, and almost $100 million later, this creation would come into reality. This new coaster, named Space Mountain From the Earth to the Moon, would be vastly different from its predecessors. Instead of a white, futuristic building, this ride building would be a steampunk-themed masterpiece of design and color. As for the coaster itself, it would be much more thrilling than its predecessors, starting with an electric winch launch up the side of the ride building. Even better, the ride would feature inversions, adding even more intensity. But this ride is more than just thrills, featuring visual effects and synced up audio cues. Though its Jules Verne theme has since been replaced by an arguably inferior Star Wars theme, the ride is still highly praised by park guests, and its installation and resulting attendance boost is often credited for saving Disneyland Paris from going under. It's possible that without this coaster, we wouldn't still have Disneyland Paris, so you gotta give it credit for that. Number 16, Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast at Six Flags Over Texas and Missouri Six Flags St. Louis. Made by American manufacturer Premier Rides. Based on the critically lambasted Batman and Robin, these coasters were originally set to debut in the 1997 season alongside New Jersey's Batman and Robin the Chiller. However, while the Chiller did open for a short time in '97, the Mr. Freeze coasters would both be delayed 1 year due to technical issues. The ride system used a fairly new magnetic launch system known as Linear Induction Motor, or LIM for short. This system would use electromagnets on the track and metal fins on the trains to propel the vehicles. Fortunately, while the Chiller has since gone defunct, both Mr. Freeze coasters are still operational. These two coasters are the same exact ride experience, so I'll be using footage of both. The ride starts off with a 70-mile-per-hour launch out of the station and through a tunnel. Afterwards, you'll hit an inside top hat that turns the vehicles upside down. This is followed by an overbank turn and a vertical spike. The spike also has LIMs on it, allowing the vehicles enough momentum to complete the layout in reverse. In 2012, both Mr. Freeze coasters would have their trains face backwards, with the rides being renamed to Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. While the layouts remain the same, the trains are now launched out of the station backwards before being launched forwards on the vertical spike. The new experience was positively received by park guests, and both coasters remain fan favorites. And here's an interesting fact. Although they're shuttle coasters, these coasters can run 2 trains through the use of a switch track system. Now that's pretty cool. Number 15, Flight of Fear at Virginia's Kings Dominion and Ohio's Kings Island, made by Premier Rides. In the beginning, launch coasters used propulsions like weight drops, winches, and flywheels. However, in the mid-90s, Premier Rides unveiled a state-of-the-art launch system, the aforementioned LIM. The first coaster to use this system would be installed at 2 parks, Kings Island and its sister park, Kings Dominion. Then owned by Paramount Parks, the rides were initially named Outer Limits Flight of Fear, named after the classic TV series The Outer Limits. The rides were built entirely indoors, with a large show building being built around the track and queue areas. The queue and stations would have an extraterrestrial theme, with a UFO and alien lifeforms in experimental tubes. As for the ride, after launching out of the station, the train would enter a massive spaghetti bowl of twisted track. This tangled layout would feature 4 inversions, a double inverting cobra roll, a sidewinder, and a corkscrew. Since the rides take place in the dark, it's hard to tell when these inversions are coming, which adds even more thrilling unpredictability to the ride experience. Both coasters continue to be praised for their intensity, and even better, the fact that they're indoors means they can run in stormy weather. So if it starts to rain, make sure to head down to this ride before the line gets too long. Over the years, this ride would also be built at doors at parks like Six Flags Fiesta Texas and Six Flags America. But the original Spaghetti Bowl coasters still hold up today. By the way, special shout out to Roller Coaster Expedition for this footage. Number 14, Big Thunder Mountain at Disneyland Paris, made by Vekoma. Though it was a financial failure when it first opened, Disneyland Paris was still praised for its high-level theming and aesthetics. Among the park's opening day attractions was an all-new rendition of Big Thunder Mountain. While the ones at Disneyland, the Magic Kingdom, and Tokyo Disneyland are still grade A attractions, the one in Paris managed to expand upon the concept. In fact, it is often considered by Disney fans to be the best Big Thunder Mountain of all time. Situated on an island in the middle of the park's rivers of the far west, this ride is absolute eye candy. At almost 4,000 feet long, the layout would be over 1,000 feet longer than its California and Florida predecessors. This allows it to incorporate more effects, animatronics, and memorable moments in general. One section of the ride features a genuinely frightening near-miss moment where you feel like your head is about to be knocked off. As for its mesa setting, the attention to detail is phenomenal, and you can tell Disney spared no expense with this attraction. Thankfully, the park's initial failure did not put an end to this ride, and you can still check it out today. Number 13, Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure, made by American manufacturer Custom Coasters International. From the manufacturer that brought us Boulder Dash and the Boss comes what's widely considered to be the best coaster in all of Michigan. To this day, it still remains the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the entire state. This humongous wooden coaster stands proudly on the property, boasting an impressive number of airtime hills. To put it simply, if you love airtime, this coaster is right up your alley, because there's plenty of it to go around. One interesting thing about this coaster is how its layout has changed over the years. When it first opened, the coaster had a trick track section, which would fling riders to the side. However, this element would be removed in 2017, supposedly to make the ride smoother. As it stands, this coaster is by far the park's star attraction, and it alone is well worth the price of admission. If you're an airtime junkie, get ready to have your timbers shivered on this excellent attraction. Number 12, Alpengeist at Virginia's Busch Gardens Williamsburg, made by B&M. Since its opening, Busch Gardens Williamsburg has served as a tribute to European culture. One of its many themed lands is Rhinefield, an area themed to the German Alps. This area is known for its beautiful landscaping, as well as its star attraction Alpengeist. Its name is German for Ghost of the Alps, with the ride itself being themed to a legendary snow beast. The ride's story involves guests trying to escape the beast on a runaway ski lift, rocketing down the slope and through the woods. After exiting the station, passengers are lifted 195 feet into the air. This gives Alpengeist the still-standing record of the world's tallest full-circuit inverted coaster. After reaching the peak, guests plummet down a 170-foot twisted drop. What follows is a lengthy terrain-based layout with an Immelman, a vertical loop, a cobra roll, a zero-G roll, and a corkscrew. With 6 inversions, it has more upside-down moments than any other Virginia roller coaster, and it's often regarded as one of the best inverted coasters ever. It's impossible to pass this ride up. And it's not even the only iconic 90s coaster at this park. Number 11, Apollo's Chariot, also at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, made by B&M. As I've said time and time again, you can never go wrong with a B&M Hyper, and it all started with this one. First opening in 1999, this roller coaster made history as the first ever hypercoaster model by B&M. This model is known for its non-restrictive lap bar restraints and floater airtime packed layouts. Needless to say, this ride is no different. Passengers are taken on an out-and-back course literally over the river and through the woods. And of course, there are several airtime hills along the way. Its gorgeous setting, out-of-your-seat moments, and revolutionary design certainly qualify it as one of the most successful prototypes of all time. Of course, you can't talk about this ride without bringing up the infamous goose incident on opening day. This incident involved Italian supermodel Fabio riding the coaster only to be hit in the face by a flying goose. Fabio's injuries were minor, but this incident only makes the ride's history much more interesting. Of course, just because it happened to Fabio doesn't mean it will happen to you, so feel free to hit up this coaster the next time you visit the park. Number 10, Raging Bull at Illinois Six Flags Great America, made by B&M. This was the second B&M hypercoaster ever built, opening just weeks after Apollo's Chariot. However, this hypercoaster is vastly different from its predecessor. While Apollo's Chariot has an out-and-back layout, Raging Bull's course is much more compact. As a result, the layout focuses much more on banked turns than airtime hills, and is often referred to as a hyper twister coaster. Still though, the airtime it does provide is excellent, and you just zoom through the constant twists and turns. Not to mention the spectacular first drop into the tunnel. Now that's a real gutbuster. At the time of its opening, Six Flags Vice President Jim Wintrow described it as combining, quote, "the unparalleled thrill of a steel hypercoaster with the tight, intense twists and turns common to a wooden cyclone-style coaster." Though airtime junkies may prefer other B&M hypers, this coaster still has a solid fan base. Many enthusiasts, including myself, agree that the experience as a whole does more than enough to hold up to the model's standards. Airtime, speed, excitement, smoothness, it's got everything, and it's highly recommended. Number 9, Rockin roller coaster at Florida's Disney's Hollywood Studios, made by Vekoma. To commemorate the 10th anniversary of Disney's Hollywood Studios Park, it was decided to build a rock and roll themed coaster. This coaster had actually been in development for quite some time, however the idea was put on hold allegedly due to the aforementioned failure of Euro Disneyland. But by 1999, the ride was finally completed, opening to the public that year. The ride would both star and feature the music of legendary rock band Aerosmith. The band would appear in the pre-show, where they would invite guests to a concert and talk their manager into getting them a limo to the show. This super stretched limo serves as the ride vehicle. After a countdown from Steven Tyler himself, the limo goes from 0 to 57 miles per hour in just 2.8 seconds. Passengers rocket through a distorted, cartoonish freeway setting, navigating several twists and turns. Its inversions include a corkscrew and a rare sea serpent element, one of only 6 in the world. After making it to the concert, guests head into a gift shop where they can purchase their photo and compose themselves after such a thrilling experience. For many who grew up taking family trips to Disney, this was their first looping and/or launched roller coaster, and it's no wonder why it's so iconic. Just another quick fun fact. If a Disney World employee takes your photo at the ride entrance, they can't get the word Aerosmith in the shot due to licensing issues. But if you really want a shot of it yourself, you can take a photo with your own camera. Number 8. Viper at California's Six Flags Magic Mountain, made by Aerodynamics. In the 1980s, Aerodynamics would introduce the groundbreaking Mega Looper, the first coaster on Earth to go upside down 7 times. After bringing the concept to Six Flags Great America and Six Flags Great Adventure, Aero would bring the Mega Looper out west in 1990. That year would see the debut of Viper at Six Flags Magic Mountain. For the first time in California's history, a roller coaster would take guests upside down 7 times. And at the time of its opening, it was the tallest, longest, and fastest coaster in the state. Just one look at this coaster is enough to send thrill seekers racing to the entrance. In addition to its astounding 180-foot tall lift hill, its first vertical loop towers above the area at 144 feet. Like other coasters at the park, this ride gives some truly amazing vistas. Being able to see the surrounding mountains and open areas makes you feel like you're on another planet. And it's truly awe-inspiring. Even after years of the park packing its lineup with more modern coasters, Viper still stands tall as a classic. And while some have taken issue with its roughness, others, including myself, still manage to have fun with this coaster and what it has to offer. Plus, that airtime you get on the mid-course is awesome. Hopefully Six Flags will keep this ride for as long as they can, but even if it does close, it will be remembered as an all-time classic attraction. Number 7. Raptor at Ohio's Cedar Point, made by B&M. 5 years after Magnum XL 200 revolutionized the coaster industry, Cedar Point was looking to add yet another star attraction. With the B&M invert model fresh on the scene, park officials decided to build one based on the original prototype. However, Cedar Fair CEO Richard Kinzel thought the prototype's elements were too close together, so he would work with B&M to modify the layout to be longer. After spacing out the elements and adding a Cobra roll, the ride named Raptor would make its debut in 1994. It was described by the park as, quote, the most exciting and ambitious project ever. For the first time ever, park guests would experience a foot-dangling thrill ride, complete with 6 impressive inversions. The ride would soar over park paths, with its stunning green color scheme standing out from the rest of the park's coasters. The ride was such a massive success that Cedar Point's attendance hit 3.6 million people for the first time ever. Even more impressive, this record wouldn't be broken until the addition of Valraven in 2016. Yes, neither Gatekeeper, Maverick, Top Thrill Dragster, or even Millennium Force would draw in as many people as Raptor did. This is proof of how influential the ride was in modernizing Cedar Point's lineup. And today, it still ranks among the park's top attractions. Number 6. Mantu at Florida's Busch Gardens Tampa, made by B&M. Yep, this is another B&M invert, showing how popular the model was in the decade. This attraction in particular is often considered to be the greatest inverted coaster of all time by several enthusiasts. The ride's development first started in 1995, when the park's parent company Busch Entertainment entered a 3-coaster agreement with B&M. This agreement would result in the aforementioned Alpengeist at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Great White at SeaWorld San Antonio, and the legendary Mantu at Busch Gardens Tampa. First opening in 1996, Mantu would be the first inverted coaster to go upside down 7 times. Themed to ancient Egypt, the ride experience would take guests on a long, sweeping layout. Its best feature by far is its trenches. At various points on the ride, the track dips below ground level, making it hard to see what's coming next. Oftentimes, you'll whip above ground straight into an inversion, adding excitement and unpredictability to the layout. And here's yet another quick fun fact. When this ride first opened, it would feature a crocodile pit right under the track leaving the station. However, this would supposedly be removed to protect the crocodiles from falling shoes. This coaster was a true winner for the park, but it wasn't their only hit coaster to make the list. Number 5. Kumba, also at Busch Gardens Tampa, made by B&M. To say Kumba was groundbreaking would be a complete understatement. Up until its opening in 1993, the most extreme coaster in the park's lineup was a run-of-the-mill aero corkscrew model named Python. But at the dawn of the 1990s, park officials were hell-bent on creating the biggest coaster in the southeast US. For this project, park officials would get in contact with B&M for the first time. Together, they would come up with a layout guaranteed to take the amusement industry by storm. The end result would be the massive Kumba. The ride's name was supposedly based on the African Congo language word for roar, which makes sense given the impressive roaring sound B&M's track is known for. This high-intensity coaster is still known for its many memorable moments. Its star elements include a vertical loop that encircled the lift hill and a pair of picturesque interlocking corkscrews. After the success of this coaster, several more thrilling attractions were added over the years, making the park the hot coaster destination it is today. And there's no doubt that the legacy of Kumba will be everlasting. Number 4. Batman the Ride at Six Flags Great America, made by B&M. This is the B&M invert that started it all. In the early 90s, Six Flags Great America's general manager Jim Wintrode reportedly came up with the concept of a coaster that could run outside of a loop. Together with engineer Robert Mamp and manufacturer B&M, he would bring the concept to his park in 1992. That year, Batman the Ride would open to great fanfare, with guests waiting hours to ride it. The coaster would pack 5 high-speed inversions into a compact layout that closely followed the terrain, and the added foot-dangling sensation gave an extra sense of danger to the experience. The concept was an instant success for the park. In fact, it was so successful that B&M would sell 11 more clones of the coaster over the years. These coasters would not only come to other Six Flags parks, but they would even head outside the US to countries like Spain, Japan, and Kuwait. Batman the Ride is not only iconic for being the first of its kind, but for being one of the greatest cloned attractions ever. Just think, every Batman model is based on the terrain of Great America. So whether you're in North America, Europe, or Asia, you're getting a little bit of Illinois with each ride. And of course, the original still holds up as a classic today, and it's a true gem in Great America's lineup. Number 3. Ghost Rider at California's Knott's Berry Farm, made by Custom Coasters International. From its humble beginnings as a berry farm and fried chicken restaurant, Knott's Berry Farm is unquestionably a California state icon. In 1998, the park would receive what many consider to be its best roller coaster. This wooden coaster named Ghost Rider would be a massive airtime and lateral packed experience. In fact, this coaster is so big that they couldn't even fit it inside the park's borders. Some of the track actually crosses over the adjacent Grand Avenue. Now that's an effective solution. During the early 2010s, the ride had started to receive criticism for becoming rougher over the years. However, American manufacturer Great Coasters International would step in to retrack the coaster in 2015. Nowadays, the ride is smoother than ever, and there's no doubt that it's a crowd pleaser. In fact, if you visit Knott's today, you'll often see it get some of the longest wait times in the park. So be sure to ride it first when you visit Knott's, because this iconic roller coaster cannot be missed out on. Number 2. The Incredible Hulk at Florida's Islands of Adventure, made by B&M. In 1999, the Universal Studios Orlando Resort would debut Islands of Adventure. While the original Universal Studios Orlando was themed to movies, this new park would be themed to literature, with themed lands based on newspaper comics, Jurassic Park, and Marvel comic books. The Marvel section of the park would be plastered with eye-popping comic book effects and colors, and its star attraction would be a roller coaster based on the Incredible Hulk. For the first time ever, B&M would build a launched roller coaster. At the beginning, passengers launch up the first hill with a tire launch. After shooting out of the tunnel, guests would head straight into a 0G roll. This inversion is followed by the most iconic element on the ride, a cobra roll over the park's lagoon. This beautiful element is immediately preceded by a vertical loop and a misty tunnel. The rest of the ride, while not as iconic, is still thrilling, featuring several bank turns, a corkscrew, another vertical loop, and another corkscrew. For many thrill seekers, this was the first looping steel coaster they've ever ridden, and it's often cited as the ride that got them interested in roller coasters. And for me, that's certainly no different. Recently, the entire coaster was completely retracked and refurbished, and nowadays, it's a super smooth thrill ride. Look for this attraction to entertain for generations to come. Number 1. Nemesis at England's Alton Towers, made by B&M. It was a close battle for the number 1 spot, but this ultra-iconic English coaster came out on top by just 2 votes. When this coaster was first conceived, it seemed to face some serious setbacks. Due to local requirements with the nearby Alton village, the coaster couldn't be taller than the tree line. Ordinarily, such a restriction would make a high-level thrill ride impossible, but Alton Towers, along with legendary developer John Wardley, would overcome these challenges. Instead of focusing on building up, they would go below the ground, digging ravines to allow for high-speed thrills. Moreover, the station was built at the midpoint of the ride's height instead of the lowest point. The result of the local restrictions ended up being a super low-to-the-ground thrill ride with an ultra-high intensity level. This coaster blew away the general public. Several riders were stunned and horrified by this attraction. With its 4 high-speed inversions, close encounters with the terrain, and impressive theming, Nemesis is not only considered the best coaster in the UK, but one of the greatest roller coasters of all time, period. What the engineers and developers did with this ride is nothing short of a miracle, dealing with strict local requirements and ending up with an all-time classic. This coaster alone is well worth the price of admission, and if you haven't gotten to check it out yet, feel free to book a ticket to England and give it a ride. And now, once again, it's time for the comment shoutout program. This is where I take 3 random comments from my previous video and read them out loud. If you want to see your comment in my video, feel free to comment down below and it may be selected. Just know though that no inflammatory comments will be chosen. Anyway, Rob Peterson writes, I am convinced that a great deal of my immune system was developed in the play places of various McDonald's ball pits. Guts wrote, my mom never let me go into ball pits because she was scared of me getting sick. I wish I could go in one. And Ray Souls writes, if I was rich, I'd totally build a private ball pit with an automatic cleaning mechanism. Before we wrap things up, I just want to give a special shout out to my new Patreon supporters. Verbal shoutouts start at the gold tier, so if you don't hear your name, it will be listed at the end of the video. Here's a special shout out to Salty Thomas and Justin. Thank you all so much, and if you want to support me on Patreon, you can do so once again at the link in the description.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or you can check out my website at themeparkcrazy.com. This is Theme Park Crazy, and I'll see you all next time.